Good morning, Hong Kong, and welcome back to another episode of Hong Kong Insurance 101, where this week we're looking at some of the coverage solutions that might be beneficial for nonprofit organizations. Now, the only real distinction as to what makes a nonprofit versus a for-profit company is whether there is any profit realized by the business. Many people mistakenly think that nonprofit organizations are only charities. And yes, while most charities are generally nonprofit companies, not all nonprofit entities are charities. As such, there are a surprising number of nonprofit entities around Hong Kong, and they can include the following types of organizations: sports, social, and recreation clubs, schools and teacher unions, homeowner associations, youth groups and associations, professional associations and unions, business chambers, churches and religious organizations, and of course, charities and foundations. Now, different types of nonprofit organizations have different roles and outcomes. Not all are providing outreach. Some, like homeowners associations, only benefit their members. These are known as mutual benefit nonprofit corporations. But they often face the same risks and liability exposures as nonprofits which provide a benefit to the public at large. The most obvious place to start when it comes to managing risks is with any insurance that may be legally required under Hong Kong law. With regards to Hong Kong law, if a Hong Kong company employs any person to do any job, irrespective of whether that company is realizing a profit, then the company must obtain employees' compensation insurance on their staff. This is fairly straightforward for most businesses. When an employee starts work, they are added to the company's employee compensation insurance policy. However, there is an interesting twist when we enter the nonprofit world because many of these organizations will rely on volunteers. By virtue of the fact that volunteers are not being compensated for their time and work, an employee's compensation insurance plan is predicated on the fact that a worker is being paid. This would mean that nonprofit companies generally do not need nor are they able to obtain employees' compensation insurance for their volunteers. But they do still have a liability issue should that volunteer suffer an injury, accident, or even death while on the nonprofit's time. A great way to solve this liability issue is with a purchase of a comprehensive third-party liability insurance policy. It should be noted that some third-party liability plans exclude volunteers from coverage, but many event insurance products will allow for liability protection of volunteers for specific events or drives. Also known as public liability, third-party liability protects the policyholder against their liability at law towards third-party injury, death, or destruction of property. For many nonprofit organizations, their entire business model is built around donations and charitable events. Gala balls, fundraising drives, food banking, and the clothes drive are more great examples of special events which would normally fall outside the remit of a public liability insurance policy, especially if the nonprofit is renting out space outside of their own office to hold the event. A non-profit event of the type illustrated previously can also carry additional risks over the problem of being liable for someone injuring themselves. If you're doing a fundraising initiative, you're likely going to have a fair deal of cash on hand or checks which have been donated to your organization, which could be disastrous for the organization if lost or stolen. Additionally, if one of your attendees damages any property at the location of your fundraising gala, perhaps because the open bar was just too good, a standard public liability coverage solution isn't really going to apply. Fortunately, there are a number of event insurance products available for just this type of situation. Event insurance is extremely customizable and can be taken out on either an annual or single event basis, giving nonprofits which focus on events for their fundraising activities a level of security above and beyond some of the more standard forms of business insurance protection. Nonprofit is such a wide and all-encompassing term that it is impossible to cover every single type of business risk faced by nonprofit entities in a video like this. Some nonprofits don't have a physical office, so they wouldn't need an office contents protection, while others may only need office contents protection. Some nonprofits may depend on a single critical employee and may need to take out key man life insurance on that person, while another nonprofit may not have a single employee under contract. There are so many variables and considerations to make when looking at nonprofits that it can be tough to navigate your insurance options without any assistance. Fortunately, the expert Hong Kong insurance brokers at CCW Global are happy to offer you advice completely free of charge on the options and risk management solutions which may work best for your nonprofit organization. That's us for this week. We hope you have a happy and healthy weekend. As always, please remember to like and subscribe to stay current with all our content as it comes out. And don't forget to ask CCW. We're simplifying your insurance.